Hello and welcome to Liberty and Gun Rights Podcast. My name is James Moffitt and I will be your host. On today's episode of Liberty and Gun Rights, I'm talking with Clifton Raheem Bradley. Clifton is a strong advocate for the Second Amendment and a passionate defender of liberty. He's here to share his perspective on freedom, responsibility, and why protecting our rights matters today more than ever. Clifton, how are you, sir?
I am doing great, and I want to thank you for extending the invitation to come on your great platform and disseminate information to your great audience. Thank you.
Well, I certainly appreciate your patience as we have had several scheduling hiccups over the last month, but we have finally connected. Yay! Yay for connection.
Yes.
So, Clifton, introduce yourself to the listening audience, please.
Well, first of all, I would like to say assalamu alaikum to your audience. That means peace and blessings be upon you. I am a community activist. Okay. I have a TV show that comes on cable access called The Underground Railroad in Chicago every Saturday night at 10:30. And podcast. Okay. And I was intrigued, with Podmatch. And I love creating content and listening to people that had different views and different perspectives that may not even agree with because I'm not self-centered. The world does not revolve around me. And I love the news
Right?
and the NRA. I support that 100% with some reservations, but I
I
thank
got you.
you.
So, as everybody in the listening audience is aware, um, there's a lot of media exposure around the Charlie Kirk assassination. He was in Utah at one of the state universities on stage talking with students about his conservative viewpoints, political viewpoints, personal viewpoints, and a I don't even know what word to use. Coward, assassin, crazy person. Anyway, somebody didn't like what he had to share or what he had to say, and so they thought it was their God-given right to kill him. That has certainly sent a ripple of disturbance across the United States of America and conservatives and liberals alike. And there are a lot of liberals, people on the left, a lot of good people, a lot of good God-fearing, Second Amendment supporting Democrats. I was told at one point online not to paint all Democrats with the same brush because there are Democrats out there that believe in the Second Amendment. They do believe in gun ownership. They believe in the God-given right to defend oneself and their family against violent predators. So I want to be clear that I am not uh, identifying Democrat liberals as as people that quote unquote hated Charlie Kirk because that's certainly not the truth. And I think that we have seen that the media has just gone apeshit with all of the sound bites and with there have been things that have been said that were apparently taken out of context, and that the way they left out important parts of what Charlie Kirk did say and only used what they found as expedient to their clickbait shows, right? And I didn't really know Charlie Kirk. I knew about Turning Point. I heard of him, and obviously in the last couple of weeks, his Turning Point program organization and what he stood for has come front and center. He was apparently a man of great faith. He was a Christian, and he didn't hide his faith. He wasn't embarrassed by his faith, and I'm very respectful of that. And he seemed to go out of his way to encourage conversations on both sides of the aisle, right? He encouraged students that did not agree with his conservative viewpoints to debate with him on an open stage, and he was not afraid of that. And I'm very respectful of that as well. And so There's a lot of talk about civil war and violence, and I'm on Medium and on Substack, and I read a lot of articles from people on the left, and they're this is a powder keg that's about to blow, and the conservatives are they're loading up and they're getting ready to come kill Democrats and liberals, and I'm like, I just look at that messaging and go, surely that is so far from the truth it's not even funny. And and while I say that, I know that this incident, like a lot of incidents in our history, have brought a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions and a lot of passion to the forefront. And what do they say in corporate America? You don't talk about religion and you don't talk about politics. And why is that? Because we are very passionate about what we believe in, right?
Mhm.
Religious, political, personal. We have convictions. We all come from different background. America, the United States of America, is a smelting pot of immigrants. You know, we're all immigrants. We all come from somewhere else. The only people that were born here are Native Americans, and well, Lord knows we know what we did there, right? We didn't treat them right. But anyway, I'm just gonna quit blathering and turn the mic over to you, Clifton. What are your thoughts on the Charlie Kirk issue?
First of all, for your listening audience, I have to admit, I look at podcasts, I had never really heard of him. Okay. But that's not to diminish him because we don't know everything. But I think that, for example, what Jimmy Kimmel Live, okay, it has a television show that came on at 10:30 in Chicago, and he got canceled. Okay, for what he said. I think that it was legitimate. I think that it was appropriate, okay, to cancel his Jimmy Kimmel Live show. And I think that the View television show with Whoopi Goldberg and Sonny Houston, they need to be scrutinized by the FCC for the negative things that they say. They didn't say anything about Brother Charlie, but the thing is, they need to be scrutinized because it's as if they want him to fail. Okay, they're stewing in their own juices on the View television show. Okay, and second of all, you know what? I believe that a individual has the right. They have the right to message to where they want to, as long as they're not saying do harm to somebody. So there may have been some things that I disagreed with, but I definitely do not believe that it was right for what that sniper did. I'm going to use the word assassination and not killing, because he was, in my opinion, he was a political figure. He just didn't hold a political office. Okay.
Right, right.
And I'm conservative my own self. What I'm saying is, I will fight for the right for the liberal to be able, independent, to be able to say what they will have to say to get their message out. I'm in opposition of it, but I don't believe that they should be killed, hurt. I don't believe that.
Well, let's talk about the First Amendment for a few moments.
Okay.
We, the United States Constitution, the First Amendment, gives us the freedom of speech, right? We have protected speech here in America. There's a lot of countries you can't say what's on your mind because you'll get killed or thrown in prison or worse, right?
Yes.
So in America, we enjoy the freedom of speech, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And but it's like we all are responsible for what we say. We're responsible for our messaging. And I think that the political rhetoric and the heat that has been ramped up after this. I mean, things were already cooking pretty good as it was with President Trump being in office for the second term. And yes, you have a protected right. You have a First Amendment right for free speech. But here's the kicker: we should be and are held responsible for what we say, whether it be in writing, whether it be on a podcast, whether it be on a TV show, whether it be in the town square. You cannot go into a movie theater and yell fire. You can't do that. Are you protected by the First Amendment to do something stupid like that? Yes, absolutely. But if you cause harm to people, if you incite a riot, or if you incite political outbursts, if you cause people to run for the exits and people get trampled and hurt or killed, guess what? You're responsible for those actions because you opened your mouth and inserted your entire kneecap and said something stupid, right? And I I believe that all of us, everybody, whether you're a political figure or not, whether you're a TV show host or not, if you're a podcast host, if you write on the internet, if you are a creator, if you're an influencer, I think that we should be held to a high standard with regards to what we say and what we believe. And sometimes we might believe something that goes against the grain, right? Even as a conservative, I have some viewpoints that might be a little bit liberal leaning, right?
Mhm.
And does that mean that everything that goes on in my head, I should just blather out on the internet? No. Some things are best just left unsaid, right?
Yeah.
And what's that old saying about idiots? Somebody may not know that you're stupid or that you're an idiot if you keep your mouth shut, right?
Yeah.
But if you open your mouth and say something stupid or idiotic, then all of a sudden everybody knows you're an idiot or stupid, right? Because you just opened up a whole can of worms and said things that you should have never said, right? And so you're going to be labeled and you're going to be held accountable for what you said. And people are going to cancel like Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, I haven't even watched the video clip of what he said. Obviously, he's very liberal and left leaning, and they use conservative politics and President Trump and Doge and all of that as a platform for all their funny material, right? There's no lack of material for them on late night television, and some of it's funny, some of what they
Yeah,
say is
can't forget
funny,
the View television show using is a punching bag every morning on the View. Punching
right?
bag. I'm sorry. Okay.
So what are your thoughts on what I'm saying about the First Amendment?
The first, you know what? Like I said, my thoughts on the First Amendment. Like I say, being an ex-military person, I believe that the individual, their rights should be defended to say with the majority of what they want to say, without any repercussions, without any back. It may be verbal, but most certainly it should be verbal, but it should not be a situation where individuals getting attacked physically, hurt, maimed, or something heinous being done to them. But there's certain things you do not say, and when you say these things, you have to understand you're going to be responsible for what you say. Like you said, if I'm in a theater and I holler fire, 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 and people get trampled over and die, are injured, I'm responsible for that. But I'm saying under normal circumstances, you should be able to speak your mind, whether you're a Democrat, you're a liberal, you're a conservative, whether you believe in God, you don't believe, you should be able to express yourself to the best of your ability to disseminate your information as long as you aren't hurting somebody.
Now, excuse me. Now, as I understand it, the existing administration, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, went out of their way to encourage the media, whatever form that might take, TV journalists, late night TV hosts, podcasters, news anchors, newspaper editors, whatever. Anyway, supposedly or apparently, they were encouraged to watch what they were going to say about Charlie Kirk, because while Charlie Kirk was not he didn't hold political office, he was a political figure, right? and and he has, his family, his wife, his children, the whole thing has just been elevated to a level of, it's all been very highlighted in the media. They're going in Arizona. I guess they live in Arizona, and they're going to use that football stadium to have his funeral, and they're treating it as a level 1 security scenario, just like as if the president was present, right?
Yes.
And so it holds 63,000 people, I think, and they're expecting 100,000 people to show up for his funeral, right?
Yeah.
So he is getting him and his message are getting a lot of exposure and a lot of media coverage, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and I don't know. I think that maybe I could be wrong. Maybe the administration is trying to dial down the heat a little bit, and they're trying to get the left to think about what they're going to say and how it's going to affect everybody else, right? Because Lord knows we don't need a civil war, right? We don't need violence. We don't need people being violent towards one another. Uh, so I think everybody that is like I said before, if you're a creator, if you're an influencer, if you're a television producer, if you have a TV show like yourself, I think we are responsible for moderating our thoughts and being particularly careful with how we say things and what we say, right? We're responsible for our words and believe what you want to believe, right? Be who you want to be, but both sides of the aisle. But Republicans and Democrats, we're all human, right? We're all human. At the end of the day, we have families, we go to work, we want to come home. We have first responders, we have lawmakers, we have judges, we have attorneys, we have dentists, doctors. We all work our trade to pay our bills, right? And at the end of the day, we want to come home and be with our families, and we want to be at peace. We have an expectation of liberty, right? We have an expectation of freedom. We have an
Yeah.
expectation of you do you and I do me, right? And we
Yeah.
don't we don't we don't have to hate one another. Where did we get to the point that in America we can't have an opposing viewpoint without hatred being spewed, without name calling and just assuming the worst. You're a liberal and you're a Democrat, and so you're just a killer. You're just bloodthirsty, and they're doing the same thing. Democrats are looking at conservatives and saying, the same things about us. Well, it's as Americans, it's our responsibility to dial it down a notch, right? Let's
Mhm.
let's let's sit back and try to be a little more objective. And I'm conservative in a lot of ways, and I don't agree with you know what President Biden and his administration did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I don't agree with, but I don't think that the Republicans, I don't think President Trump and his administration are perfect by any shape or form. I'm not a Trumper, I guess you could say. I support President Trump. I support, a lot of things in Project 2025. But does that mean that Project 2025 is perfect and that it's going to make America great again?
Mhm.
Not necessarily. All my Second Amendment friends they're gonna flip out on that one. They're gonna be like, "Oh, he's perfect. He's perfect. He's perfect. Make America great again." Well, I'm like, when did America not be great? I thought America was great, right? In my mind, I thought, well, wait a minute, when did America not become great? Even even when the Democrats were in office, America was still great. You know
Was it? Yeah. Okay.
what? I don't get it.
You say it was. Okay. I'm just listening to you. I'm listening. Okay. Oh,
Well, am I wrong?
I
Is
mean,
is America not great?
I was no, America is great, but I'm saying when you say Project 2025, from what I know, I don't support it, but you know what? But I can't really speak on it because I would be speaking at a position of ignorance because I don't even know totally what it's about. And President Trump, to your listeners out there, I supported President Trump. And you know what? I take it in my community because I did not agree with all of these liberal ideas. And I happen to think that the country would have been in a terrible position if Kamala Harris would have became president of the United States. I happen to believe that you had people that were, all due respect, that were coming across the borders and going to sanctuary cities in impunity, no repercussions. And you know what? And she's still, when it comes to relationships, I'm not going to say what it is on your platform, but the thing is, I don't agree with how they felt about relationships. I'll word it like that.
Okay. All right.
And it would have, to me, you know what, fires with tariffs. I know we talking about something else. Donald Trump was right because there was a trade imbalance. Okay, and other countries were taking advantage of the United States, and there's nothing wrong with a tariff because what it does is it forces them to come back home and to bring vital jobs and industries back to the United States of America instead of it being subcontracted out. I know you weren't talking about that, but it does.
No, we can talk about it. I mean, tariff. I don't know that much about tariffs, or economics or global economics or any of that, but I will say that it levels the playing field, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that, I don't know. President Trump may be the best businessman that ever lived, or maybe not. I don't know. But I do know that he is a businessman and he does have some successful businesses under his belt. He's got some failures too. But I mean, none of us are perfect, right? So he has identified the fact that China and Russia and different global economies have been taking advantage of the U.S. for decades, right? And so he's like, oh, no, we're not playing that game anymore. And here's what we're going to do to level the playing field, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, it's thrown a monkey wrench into the global economy, and you know, our our manufacturers and our manufacturing plants, our automakers and steel industry and all these industries that America and the rest of the world depend upon, they have in the past moved their manufacturing outside of the United States because it's cheaper. They have cheap labor. I mean, look at Apple. Apple has all their phones are being made and manufactured in China. Why is that? Why are they doing that? Because they can pay a Chinese citizen 10 cents on the dollar to sit in a what do you call that line where they're manufacturing stuff, whatever that's called.
Assembly line.
Yeah, they got Chinese people sitting in an assembly line putting these iPhones together that we're being charged $1,200 for here in America, and they're probably paying those poor people in China, like I said, 10 cents to the dollar. I have no clue. I'm no expert. I don't know what they're getting paid. But you know what? Apple has moved their manufacturing to China or Malaysia or India or some third world
They've
country.
been forced to come back to the United States of
Yeah,
America.
they're being forced to move
Invested
that shit
500
back
million.
here. Right, bring American jobs and American products back to America, right? That's the best thing that we can do for our economy. And are there going to be some growing pains? Are there going to be some repercussions because of what's happening with these tariffs? Absolutely. But we need to do that, right? And oh my God, where everybody's up in arms about it. There are some small business people that are they're feeling the repercussions of, there's the supply chain issues. I heard just yesterday, I don't know if I think my wife told me this. She says, yeah, I heard that there's two cargo ships from China that are fixing to offload, and supposedly they're going back to China and they're not coming back. Well, okay, you know. So what does that mean? That means all the Temu users, all the Temu shoppers are not going to be able to buy cheap Chinese crap, for 10 cents on the dollar, right? Let's buy American, right? Let's bring manufacturing and back to America. And sure, an iPhone may cost $1,200, but if the people that are putting those iPhones together are Americans, they're being paid a fair wage for their hard work. Then would we mind paying $1,200 for that iPhone? I mean, do we need a $1,200 iPhone? No, you don't need a $1,200 iPhone. None of us need these smartphones that are being peddled to us like they're
I can't help it.
Oh, I know. I'm sitting here preaching about it, and what do I have? I
Yeah.
have an iPhone 16, right? Because I'm as guilty as everybody else. Oh, it's a bright, shiny object. It's a computer, and I can get on Snapchat, and I can get on Facebook, and I can get on TikTok and make videos while I'm sitting on the toilet. But anyway, I digress.
I can't say anything 'cause like I said, I'm sitting here on my MacBook. I'm an Apple
Right?
head. I'm an
Yeah.
Apple. I what to say? I'm an Apple head. Okay, and the reason I'm an Apple head because everything is just intricately
It's
connected.
integrated. It's got its own ecosystem. Yep. I'm right there with you, brother. But if you're an Apple fanboy, you're going to pay for it, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm
But anyway,
retired. I paid my dues.
that's right.
We was talking about equipment. When I get something, I try to get the best product that I can afford because I know if I pay a nickel or a dime for it, it's not going to last long. And I want the warranty. Go ahead.
Well, this has nothing to do with liberty and gun rights. However, I can attest from years of use that Apple products are one of the best, and you cannot beat their customer service. Their customer service is second to none. They have stellar customer service. You will not find it in any other. I mean, I've got a nice Dell, heavy duty Dell laptop that I do my podcasting on, and I paid about $1,200 for it. I've upgraded the RAM on it, and it's top of the line, But I also have a MacBook Air 3 that if something happens to this Dell, guess what? I'll just swap it out for that MacBook and keep trucking because it's every bit of as good, has every bit as much horsepower as this Dell does. And so anyway, away from technology, back to
Give- to-
sorry. So that was Steve Jobs calling from the grave, probably to talk smack.
He's a
Anyway,
genius.
yeah, he's like, wait, what are they talking about? They're talking about Apple. But anyway, so let's talk about Project 2025 a little bit. One of the things that project, it's been authored by the Heritage Foundation. They keep trying to get me to join, and I won't join. I'm not joining because I don't support them 100%. I don't really support everything in Project 2025. I got a friend of mine, Andrew Watkins, who's a book author. She's written several books, and
Mhm.
she's certainly on the other side of the fence. I'm conservative, she's Democratic, she's liberal, but she's picked Project 2025 apart with a fine-tooth comb and put it under a microscope, and she has spent the last 2 years examining everything that's in Project 2025, and I don't agree with all of it, right? However, let's talk about immigration. Let's
Okay,
let's
go ahead.
close the borders. Let's close the borders. That's what President Trump build the wall, close the borders, right? And they're going after all these Venezuelan gangsters and gang members, and oh my God, everybody is up in arms, and oh,
Mhm.
we're going to Home Depot, we're going to Lowe's, and we're going to all these places that hire illegal aliens because
Mhm.
they work cheap, and excuse me, Home Depot and Lowe's, if you work for any corporate entity in America, guess what? You have to have a driver's license. You have to have a social security card. You know what it takes to get hired in America? It's not an easy thing. You can't just show up and sign on the dotted line and show up for work on Monday at 8 a.m. You go through an onboarding process that is so ridiculously painful. It's just stupid. Though that onboarding process is there to weed out people like that. It's there to make sure that who they're hiring is a bona fide American citizen that lives in America, that has a right to live in America, and has gone through the naturalization process or become I'm a naturalized citizen. I was born in Germany, right? And my parents were a military family that brought my sister and I from Schaffenburg, Germany, from an orphanage, brought us back to America. In 1984, I stood in a federal courtroom with 40 or 50 other people, some young kids, mostly adults, that were immigrating into America and wanted to become a U.S. citizen. And you have to say the Pledge of Allegiance. You needed to know how the government worked to a certain extent. You needed to be acclimated to what it means to be a U.S. citizen. And I'm a very proud U.S. citizen. I'm very proud to say that I'm a U.S. citizen. Now, I know if I go outside of the country, according to world travelers, I'm not a world traveler. I've listened to and I've talked to people that are world travelers, and they say that the United States is a laughing stock. You go to Europe, you go to Sweden, you go to Australia, we're a punching bag. They think we're just hilarious, and we're not perfect. We've been in existence for 200 plus years. Do we have our problems? Yeah, absolutely. Do we need to fix some things? Absolutely. But
Yeah.
I still say, despite all of that, I would rather live here than anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah. You had mentioned something about Project 2025, but I would say Project 2025, most people in the African American community, it is demonized. And they pull out negative things. And I don't have enough, you know what? I don't really have enough knowledge to sit down and hold even comment on it, but I can tell you what the reaction is, within my community, that it is demonized as trying to move America back. And a lot of people, African Americans, feel that it is not moving America forward. But again, I'm saying this without reading the doc. I have not read it. So I'm just telling you the sentiments in the African American community. They do not like it. But I would say in Chicago, where I'm at, you know what? It is liberal. This is a blue state that I believe is going to turn red anyway. Immigration, sanctuary city, having people come in without following the process to come to the country, it is wrong. And there are people that are mad. There are people that are angry, upset at resources. Dollars are being taken from people, okay, to an outside group of people, and that money is supposed to be allocated for the citizens that are here legally, and property taxes have went up. And you have veterans that are sleeping up underneath bridges, and you have immigrants that have come into the country, and our Chicago politicians, okay, J.B. Prister, who may run for president, and Brandon Marshall, they do not want to let the National Guards of ICE come into Chicago, Illinois, because it's an indication we failed. We failed. Okay, they failed in doing their job. Okay, and that's why they're fighting in the media. We don't want them here because you felt that your jobs, and like I said, Illinois, Chicago, the whole Illinois almost turned red. A red state. It's gonna turn red because there's a lot of opposition, and the leadership does not want you relent because it's an indication that we failed at our task. They failed. Go ahead.
You're right. I, I am 110,000 for closing our borders and stopping the flow of illegal drugs, fentanyl and heroin and cocaine and all these opioids well, that's pharmaceutical companies. That's another topic altogether. But fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, all of these drugs that the Venezuelan cartels and Mexican cartels, it's $1 billion industry, right? The war on, we know where the war on alcohol went. They lost that war, and alcohol is it's like a legalized drug, right? But we got all of these drugs, all these illegal drugs coming into our country, and our citizens are becoming addicts, and they're addicted.
Zombies.
They're addicted to this stuff, and it's killing people, right? And everybody just wants to, oh, let's ignore. No, it's not that big of a problem, and know, and they're pushing that. They're sending drug mules and people across our borders to peddle that stuff. We have U.S. Coast Guard doing drug interdictions every day outside of our borders, out in the Gulf of America. Oh, that's a trip. I thought it was the Gulf of Mexico. I looked at the map the other day, and everybody was like, "James, are you living under a bridge?" They said they were going to call it they're going to change the name to the Gulf of America. I'm like, well, okay, whatever. That's fine. Let's call it Gulf of America. So we have U.S. Coast Guard cutters that are out there stopping, boats. They got on TV. They're like using drones and blowing those boats up. They're like, forget it.
Venezuela.
We're just gonna vaporize your boat and everybody on it and all the drugs and everything and be done with it, right? And I'm like, well, okay, I guess that is a solution, right?
Think that you know what President Trump asked President Xi, do you have these proper problems in China? He said no. He said, when we find people that do that, they get eliminated. We don't have that type of problem.
Right,
So
exactly.
I happen to think that anyone conservative in my views, anyone that is selling drugs or narcotics, fentanyl in the community should be eliminated. I don't want to say the other word. Okay, it should be eliminated because you're not just destroying that person. You're destroying the next generation that could proceed after this individual populates. Appropriates and spreads his DNA. You're destroying a whole generation and a generation after that. And I think they should be eliminated. I think that Democrats, all due respect, they're weak on crime. They're weak. There's no reason that an individual should be in a jail cell watching television. Okay, if they're not going to school, they should be working on the roads. You know what? Are going to school and we're looking at television and lifting weights. There's no reason. That's my personal opinion. Because you know what? If the taxpayers are paying for you to be in jail, you need to be out working or going to school.
Absolutely.
It's like with Section 8 and a food subsidy. But I'm going someplace. Go ahead.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think that if you have proven to society that you're a violent criminal or you're a criminal of any kind, if you are a career criminal and you're a three-time loser, you've been convicted of a felony three times, and we've thrown you under the jail, then yeah, we need to rebuild the roads in America, right?
Yeah,
Bring back chain gangs. Put
yeah.
those prisoners to work. We're feeding them, we're housing them, we're providing medical care for them, we're educating them, we're giving them cable TV. That's not jail. That's Mar-a-Lago.
Just for
That's
federal prison, though. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. That's not. My God, don't get me started. Yeah, we need to bring there are sheriffs in America. Can't think of one right off the top of my head that are bringing back chain gangs. They're like, no, you sleep at night, you get up in the morning, you get breakfast, we put your ass on a bus, and we take you out to a project that we're working on, and you're going to help us rebuild the road. You're clean up America, right? Clean up
Yeah,
America. Why do we have trash on our freeways? Bring those prisoners out and put them to work. We're
they,
paying, we're paying for them to be there. So bring them out and make them productive.
the other alternative though, if they're going to school and you know what to maintain a certain grade point average and not just going to school, I believe it should be either a choice. They're going to school inside the prison, but I'm not talking about somebody just getting D's and maintaining average. Okay. They should be out working because the taxpayers are paying to house them, they're paying to feed them, and it is wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong when I walk past the school at night and all the lights are on and nobody's in the school. Okay. So our government, I think that you're going to see a more efficiently run government with Republicans, people that have conservative views, because I just believe liberals and they're just weak on crime. They're weak. They're weak. Because in Chicago, you know what? You have young people that go downtown and tie up downtown and beat up cars and just beat up, you know what, knock out windows. And then the mayor Johnson, Brandon Johnson in Chicago said, we need to be easy. No, you need to hold the parents responsible for your child's actions, okay? There need to be repercussions. And I guess I'm just a conservative. I didn't feel this way when I was younger, though.
Do you remember the L.A. riots?
Yeah, yeah. You say Rodney King, can we just get along? Okay, go ahead.
Well, have you heard of the rooftop Koreans?
No, I haven't heard. I'm not familiar.
Well, there were Koreans that stood on top of their business owners during the L.A. riots, and they stood on top of their rooftops with AK-47s. And if you came toward their business to destroy their business and to damage, well, they shot you on sight. They were like, yeah, no, this is my business. I've earned the right to protect it. And I mean, did they really have a right to do that? I don't know.
I
Was
say
it
yeah.
what they were doing was considered violence and illegal or unlawful? Sure, but I mean the L.A. riots were out of control, and I'm no expert on what happened there, but I remember rooftop Koreans and why they stood their ground and it kept people from damaging their stuff. And I here in Charleston, they had organizations like Black Lives Matter. They spent 6 hours in downtown Charleston destroying businesses, throwing Molotov cocktails, setting buildings on fire, knocking out all the glass, looting, stealing. And they took the Charleston Police Department and Charleston County Sheriff's Department by surprise. They didn't know what to do. They didn't have the manpower to even handle it. And so they had to, I don't know, it started like at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, the following morning, that Saturday morning, they had enough law enforcement personnel on site to start moving them out of Charleston and driving them out. And I'm like, wow, you're talking about being soft on crime and liberal governors and mayors condoning that. And I'm like, you don't see that in rural America, right? You're not going to see that kind of crap. You're not going to block roads in rural America because all the good old boys with shotguns and deer rifles and four-wheel drive pickup trucks, you're not going to block the road because they're just going to run right over you and move you out of the way because they don't tolerate that crap. They're like, not here. It ain't happening.
This is similar to what happened in Chicago during the crises with the virus. Okay, they were breaking into stores and destroying, it, similar to what happened to LA. But what happened is in the Hispanic community, the gang leaders came out and said, you will not destroy this community, because you probably say, what is their motivation? They're getting some, like in the old days, hey, you can operate, but you got to give us a certain amount of dollars, okay? And it's similar to that in the street vendors in Chicago that are Hispanic over there. They had to pay a certain amount of fee to the black market, and they say you will not destroy these stores in Chicago in the Hispanic community because they're getting something. Like you get,
Sure.
like you get a store and say, man, for your windows not to be broke out, you're gonna have to. So it's
It's called
similar to
protection.
that.
It's called protection.
Yeah.
You pay a fee for protection. You pay us X amount of dollars, we'll keep your store intact. But what do, right? You either protect it yourself or you pay somebody else to protect it.
Chicago was a bad city. It looks beautiful, and people on the outside look at it. But I'm gonna tell you, once you live it, it's not what you think it is, brother.
Okay.
Crooked politicians, and you
Well, they're
know,
everywhere. They're everywhere. They're here in Charleston. Trust me.
crooked. But like I say, but I believe if I believe one of the remedies is, like I say, it is a blue state if it turns red, which I believe is going to turn during the next presidential election. I believe that's a hope for some type of stability, a stabilization against criminal activities and all these liberal ideas to be in Chicago, Illinois. I happen to believe that's best. You know, I believe it's best, like I said. But I admit to you and your audience, when I was younger, I did not have these conservative ideas. I'm old, I'm retired now.
You're mature and you're wiser, right?
Yes, yes.
So let's, one of your talking points was sanitation in cities like Chicago, New York, and California.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to eliminate sanctuary city, letting people come in that has had hard times. But let me say to your listening audience, I'm going to sound like the borders. I'm not against immigration. I'm against people not following the process or the protocol to come into the country. If I go to Europe, if I go to Africa, I need a passport.
Right.
You know
Exactly.
what? People that are listening to this, you need a passport. And if I happen to sneak on that plane and live in that society for a little while, I am going to be expedited. Once I'm caught by the authorities, I'm going to be expedited back to the United States with handcuffs, and I'm going to jail. Okay. And there has to be a protocol to come into the country. And if you did not follow the protocol, you must go back to your place of origin. You must, because they're taking individuals that are coming in, they're taking subsidies from Social Security and they didn't earn anything, Medicare and they didn't earn anything. There are people that are staying in hotels, 5-star hotels, but there are people that have been sleeping out on the streets for years. This is wrong.
Oh, absolutely. We have veterans who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces and went and fought wars for our liberty and our freedoms that are living on the streets. I'm sorry, that's a black eye on America. Uh, it's horrible. And I agree that some of the veterans, some people that are homeless, are on the street because of addictions. Right? It's a multifaceted problem, and I don't want to make light of those things. But where do we where does America spend their money? It's not a problem that can't be fixed. It's a problem that people would rather turn a blind eye to street people. We have tent cities behind Walmart and Target here in the Charleston area. All across America, we have urban areas that have tent cities behind all these big box stores. They live in the woods, and a lot of those people are veterans. I don't know what the percentage is, but can we do better? Can we bring? I can't help but believe we can.
I don't think, you know what, I'm looking at the world, and I'm starting to almost believe we can do better, but we won't, because you have a school system, okay, where Asians, they study harder. They take education, okay, harder, okay. They're grading our children on a curve in a school, where the curve means is, you know what, everybody's not on a level, so they're lowering the standards in the educational system. And China's leading. They're leading. They're leading. Africa is leading. Did you know in Africa they go to school 7 days a week?
Wow.
Do you know in China, to get out of 8th grade, you have to be able to speak 2 languages? We're failing. It's President Trump said, we're failing as a nation. standing behind. China's Navy is bigger than ours now. And the next leader in AI technology, I think it would be China. It would be a juggernaut. So we don't wake up. I think with AI technology, we will not catch up. We will not catch up. We will not. It's a chance, but educational wise, education changes the paradigm and the narrative of things that are going to take place in your nation, not in the next generation. U.S. is falling behind.
Right. Absolutely. I live in South Carolina, and our state is 47th.
Is
We're
it?
at 47th level. My wife's a special education teacher, and I'm like, wow, I was raised in Texas, so I don't know where Texas ranks, but they're not 47th. And I got a pretty good education. I'm talking about a high school education. I have some college under my belt, but I meet people. I have met people. I turned 64. I have met people that are my age and younger that cannot put a simple sentence together. Not only can they not put a simple sentence together, they can't write a paragraph, much less a story, right? And my wife was in graduate school. She's got 2 master's degrees. She's very smart. She studied hard. She was in graduate school, and she already had a master's degree. She's going on her second one, and she had a group of people that were graduate students, and they were supposed to write a paper as a group. And you know what? Some of those graduate students couldn't put a simple sentence together. She was baffled. She was like, you would not believe how ignorant some of these people are. They don't even, how did they get a master's degree and you can't write a simple sentence, right? You can't write a simple sentence. You can't do basic arithmetic in your head, adding, subtracting, dividing, division, and multiplication. I'm not talking about Common Core math. I'm talking about basic math, basic arithmetic, basic reading comprehension. Like your average person has an 8th grade level comprehension when they read. I'm like, what? What? 8th grade? Are you kidding me? We just got a bunch of ignorant, educated people just stumbling around like the zombie apocalypse out here.
With their heads
Like
down like this on
I
their
was,
phone, walking
I'm
around.
like, how do they? I was a supervisor for a security company way back when. I was a patrol supervisor, and I had security officers under me. I'd go from post to post, and I'd read some of these. I'd read some of these incident reports: who, where, what, why, and when. 5 basic tenets, things that have to be in that incident report, so the property managers would know what happened. And I'd read these scribbled incident reports that have 6 sentences, but it didn't make any sense. And I had to sit down and rewrite them because I was not going to turn that crap into the property manager at 8 o'clock the next morning and have her read that and go, what? What happened? Because I don't understand this. And I
But
was like,
can I say something? The danger is, you probably noticed, they don't even do that no more. You can use Chat GPT.
of course,
You
yeah,
write
yeah,
out
absolutely.
a synopsis. I write out a term paper, and then you could say, so it does not look professional, right? As though it's a 7th or 8th grader. So the teacher does not.
Yeah, and teachers know teachers are not stupid, right? And when an 8th grader or a 12th grader turns in a paper that is perfect, right? They know that that child doesn't know how to write that well because they've been trying to teach them, right? They're trying to teach them how to write. They're trying to teach them how to read and comprehend what they're reading and understand things. And so they turn in these papers that sound like a college student put that together. Hell, some college students can't put something together. Now, I'm not saying that every college student out there is stupid. I'm not saying that there are a lot of very intelligent young men and women out there that are going to be our future scientists, our future medical professionals,
Mhm.
future judges, whatever, right? There are a cross section of very intelligent young people out there that are intelligent, that do know the basics, and they know more than just the basics, right? And
Mhm.
our nation is going to be dependent upon those individuals who excel up here in their head, that get knowledge and get information and can process it and apply it to applied sciences. Like there's a STEM thing that my wife is involved in, right? Science, technology,
Mm-hmm.
English, math, I don't know, whatever STEM stands for. But there are some very intelligent young people out there,
Yeah.
and I know that, and I'm thankful for that because I'm a baby boomer. In about 10 or 20 years I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be vaporware. I'll be all
No,
these
they're working on
podcasts that I'm doing.
technology. They're working on technology that might
Yeah,
keep our consciousness alive. That's not
yeah,
true.
yeah. So anyway, all right. So we're coming up on 59 minutes. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put a plug in it here. I'll have you back on our podcast and we talk about other stuff.
Okay, well, okay, and I thank you for extending the invitation, and I expressed myself to the best of my ability, and leave this with your audience with assalamu alaikum. That means peace and blessings be upon you, and will support this platform, the platform that he has, and support him. You know what? Because he's doing a diligent job of disseminating information. Thank you.
Thank you, Clifton. Um, to my listening audience, I want to thank you for the privilege of your time. Sincere thanks to Clifton Raheem Bradley for being part of today's episode of Liberty and Gun Rights. His insights remind us of the importance of protecting our constitutional freedoms and staying engaged in the fight for liberty. So, to the audience, thank you for listening. Be sure to join us again as we continue the conversation on safeguarding the rights that define us. All right, everybody. Bye bye. And
Yeah.
thanks again, Clifton.
No, thank you, because, man, you know what? These topics, I love to talk about these topics. It's something about the world, and I like asking questions because you know what? I have a very inquisitive mind. I love the media like yourself. I love it.
Amen, brother. I enjoyed having.
So when will you be able to come on my show?
We'll talk about that here in a second.
Okay. Okay.